Welcome to the Wine Zone. This is Pro and Con, and I'm Konrad Ejbich. My guest today is Stéphane Vedeau. He's the owner and the winemaker of a winery in the Côtes du Rhône called La Ferme du Mont. It produces some stunning wines in the Southern Rhône. In his 2010 Châteauneuf de Pape, which is the wine that we're tasting today, was scored at 98 points by Robert Parker. Congratulations on that.
Congratulations to the wine and to the terroir.
Welcome to the show. So my understanding is that you've been in the wine business for a long time. You had a property in the Languedoc, and you sold that, and you sold everything, and you moved there to the Southern Rhône. That's correct, right? You moved to the Southern Rhône. So why did you choose the Rhône instead of, say, Burgundy or some other region of France?
Easy, but before that, I still have 5 hectares and a half in the Languedoc, in a lost place. But the answer to your question, why the Rhône, is simply because my grandfather, which was the origin of my family in the wine activity, I would say, was ingénieur agronome in the city of Lyon.
An agronome in Lyon, okay.
Lyon. And he worked on the decree of the Côte-Rôtie, and so originally the roots of my family from my mother's side comes from Lyon, the Rhône Valley.
Right.
But northern part.
Right. So it's really family ties, that family history that took you to the Rhône.
Yes.
It wasn't a personal preference of the style or working with the grapes. You worked with the same grapes in the Languedoc, right?
Absolutely.
Right. Have you ever worked with Pinot Noir?
Well, I did some winemaking in the region of Limoux, by the way.
Right.
With the same clone that you can find sometime in Burgundy. But of course, the expression and the personality was different.
Right.
Obviously.
Of course.
Different terroir, different climate.
Of course. Now, coming from the Languedoc, you had to learn a little bit about different winemaking in the Côtes du Rhône. And can you tell me how does winemaking differ in the Côtes du Rhône from Languedoc?
How it differs?
What did you have to learn?
Well, you learn first of all different terroir. Number one. Secondly, you have especially one of the difference. When you said you worked with the same grape, you're right. But at the same time, in the Rhône, it's particularly the place where the proportion of Grenache is the most important. So, considering that element, that characteristic, you better work on the combination between terroir. Again, what is really in the soil, some macroclimate location in the Rhône Valley, and of course at the end the aging and the global painting of all these elements will start from the vineyard. Mm-hmm. In Languedoc, it is you have great grapes like Carignan. Like Cinsault, like Mourvèdre, but to be honest, working only with mainly Grenache at 80% makes the thing to be balanced more difficult, more complicated. Mm-hmm. But so once you have understood your terroir in the right direction, suddenly it becomes kind of paradox between a lot of flesh, a lot of generosity, but a great delicate curve and a very elegant style of wine at the end. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And the difficulty in the Rhône, and when you decide to make the best of the terroir, of course, it's not to cover it by any technological process, and it's not the case for what I'm doing. It's very traditional, even if I have some of my fermentation location use control of temperature, of course.
Right.
But I do not use any sulfites. do not use any yeast inoculated.
So it's all natural fermentation.
Absolutely.
Are your vineyards managed sustainably, organically, or biodynamically?
Alors, I have a teeny which is a biodynamic, but for 90% of my vineyard it is organic.
Right, right. That's great, because that to me that gives more natural flavor to the wine. It won't seem as
Yes,
those chemicals do strip out certain flavors.
Yes, but of course you're right to mention that. But for instance, in this Côte Capellan, if we are talking about this wine,
Côte Capellan is the Châteauneuf de Pape.
Yeah.
It's a 2010, and it's coming out in September at Vintages.
Yeah, if
right?
we talk about this wine particularly, if you come one day, you will see that on one vineyard, one piece of vineyard, one parcel concerned by this one, some of the vine are nearly 150 years old.
Wow.
Okay, so you have a very old vine, a very complex soil, and it would be a pity somewhere to treat too much, to put as we call entrant or pesticide or whatever.
Yes.
And you better spend a bit of your energy to make sure that the remaining vine of this age will remain longer in life as possible, and to permit the vine to have a good end of life at this age is to provide naturally element in the soil which can be given only in a natural biotope.
Right.
Because the nature, when you observe the nature, it's never one species of vegetal in one place.
That's right.
It's a combination of things.
So many things. Now, if you have vines that are 150 years old, you must also have vines that you've had to replace, and you have young vines. Okay?
Sure.
So what's the average age of the vineyard for your Châteauneuf de Pape?
I have two cuvées, but my top cuvée, Capellan, the average age is, I would say, if you take the oldest and you take the youngest, it's turned about, I never made the exact calculation, but it must turn by 90 years old.
Wow, fantastic. And obviously, you don't use every last grape of the Châteauneuf de Pape in the Châteauneuf de Pape. Some of it would go in the other wines that you have. In the Côtes du Rhône?
It cannot.
No?
No.
In the Côtes du Rhône, you can declassify.
No, but the point for me is my yield are so low,
Right.
that already
It's too good
for
to waste
instance,
on that.
on this one, it's 3 times lower than
Yeah, I think the authorities allow for about 35 or 40 hectares?
35.
35, so you're doing about 10 hectoliters per
Yeah,
hectare.
a bit more than 10.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. But
For this one.
it comes out in the concentration. I'm tasting this wine, and I'm really getting the Grenache coming out here. There's not a lot of Grenache. It's mostly Syrah and Mourvedre, right?
No. It's mainly Grenache.
It's mainly Grenache.
Of course. I mean, it has to be a majority of Grenache in the Châteauneuf.
Okay, I did not realize. I thought that you could play with the grapes. That there are 13
You
grapes.
can play with
you
the
can play
grapes,
as
but
much as you want.
You can play with the grapes, but the purity of the molasse, of the terroir in general from Châteauneuf, values truth for me in point number 1 in the Grenache. And then the other grapes are there for
Structure,
or
flesh,
complexity, length, sometimes. But
the fruit is Grenache.
but at the same time, if you have to consider a priority in the wine or in the juice, it's more terroir. You can make a fantastic complex wine with only Grenache, but with different soil and different level of maturity, more than necessarily adding a lot of grapes different. Because it's where in the world the Grenache has the best expression.
This is a spectacular wine. How long would you estimate that this will age?
2010 is low yield, as I told you, partly from very, very, very old vines. It is slow fermentation, 8 weeks, which is unusual because in general people finish their alcoholic fermentation after 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks. Here it's 8 weeks. It's a long aging in demi-nuit, and the characteristic is so a lot of concentration, but the soil mainly
a lot of mineral,
a lot of minerality, and
yes.
The part from Coste Froide and Montolivet give a lot of freshness in structure. So you have a lot of freshness, you have concentration, you have a long aging. It's not filtered.
Right. I mean, this is brilliant to drink now.
Yes.
But I think it'll be even more brilliant in 6 to 8 years, 10 years, and I think it'll probably hold maybe 20.
Yes, but, a lot of professionals used to say 25.
Yeah. Yeah, and that again surprises me because of the high concentration of Grenache.
Yes.
Which is the least well aging grape, I think, of the group that's there.
Yes.
That's, right. But fantastic. Now, and this I was really looking for because I have a quote here from Robert Parker. He says this about your wines. He says, they combine the best of the Southern Rhone with a Burgundian Grand Cru-like gracefulness and elegance. I get that. He calls you an obsessive compulsive winemaker.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I am obsessed by by detail. I do not count my time when I am. Maybe because of that, I don't know.
Tell me about your obsessions. Tell me about your obsessions.
Okay, doctor. Okay, thank you. You give me
here in the wine, not afterwards.
You give me your bill after for this exam. No, well, first of all, before speaking about my private life, no. The very important thing is the balance, and all time. Of course, inside that you have some very, very late harvest Grenache, but not all of them. And at the end, it's always the relation that you want to have with balance. The quest is harmony and freshness. Never have problem in my region with the sun. We are flooded by that all the time. It's almost a permanent fight at the end of the cycle of the vine when prior picking the grapes to make sure that what you will collect will be in good health and with no stress. That's the point. So the moment I decide to pick up, I always make sure that I'm not losing the natural acidity available inside my fruit, in fact, inside my grapes. So, and from that point, I enter the grapes in the cellar, of course, and without SO2. And from that point, it's always how can I maintain the freshness which was available in the fruit from the beginning until the end. That's the point. So at the end, when they say that it looks like Grand Cru from Burgundy, and I think that he talked about Chambord-Musigny, by the way.
Yeah, because it's got that femininity, that lovely femininity.
Yeah, it's because if you remember what I said a few minutes ago, it's the quality of the extraction of the tannin which is smooth and long, and the freshness which is very available on the palate, and an alcohol that you do not feel, by the way.
No, not at all.
And at the end,
it's 14.5, and it doesn't seem that at all.
Yeah, and at the end, it makes it a bit different and outstanding compared to the other big good wines from my region. But I used to more the Capellan is more famous to be fresher than usual, but keeping the typical concentration from great Châteauneuf du Pape.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. I want to say this. This is La Femme du Mont, Châteauneuf du Pape, Côte Capellan, 2010. It's rated 98 points by Robert Parker. It's coming out in September. Currently available is the Côtes du Rhône, the regular Côtes du Rhône-Villages. In a month, we're going to see a lovely Côtes du Rhône white called La Truffière. And the Première Côte is just another one of their everyday wonderful brands. thank you for coming in. I'm so pleased that you've been here. My guest has been Stéphane Vedeau, and he's the producer of some terrific wines in the Côtes du Rhône, which you can find at your local liquor board and the Côte Capellan at Vintages. So join us again soon when we speak with some more fascinating wine professionals. Thank you, and thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
I'm so pleased.
Me too.